Hello. I'm going to be talking to Sharon, it's the Human Canine Collaborative, about the educator training. She did the first educator training with me. Hi, Umu. And she works with dogs. She is trained as an occupational therapist, and she works with humans and their dogs on regulation, co-regulation, um, anxiety, all sorts of stuff. She's going to come tell us what she does and how she really what she was kind of struggling with that led her to the educator training, and then how she has applied the educator training since finishing it. Hi, Sharon. There you are. Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
How are you today?
I am a little nervous. And
Have you ever done one of these before?
I have, yeah,
Okay, okay.
just a couple, but I get nervous anytime. It doesn't matter how many times I do
Yeah,
it.
understandable. Well, I was kind of explaining what you do, but I think you can explain it better than I can. Can you tell everyone, or you can introduce yourself and then tell us what you do?
Yeah. Hi, I am Sharon, and I am a human animal bond facilitator and a human canine interaction strategist. And I help people cultivate skills in somatic consent and co regulation in the context of their relationship with their dogs.
So cool. Oh, Des is in here. Hi. Um, okay, amazing. So, can you can you tell us maybe like a little bit about how you do that and what that means? Like what for anyone who's wondering what it looks like to practice consent with their dog.
Mm, yeah, I think in a lot of ways I'm still figuring this out. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a daily practice and it's a daily exploration of trying to find ways to have teach a dog how to make requests for getting their needs met or for what they want or what they want to do, and helping the human to recognize the ways that the dog is going to communicate what they need and what they want, and then simultaneously helping the human to cultivate skills in themselves to recognize how they're feeling and what they need and what they desire, so that the two of them can communicate clearly and directly with each other, and then also as a unit with others that they're interacting with.
Wow, very cool. I've learned so much from your Instagram with my dog, especially around grooming stuff, and like learning to ask her for permission, is this okay right now? And then sometimes her no is really clear. And then I also will like continually check in with her, like, have you had enough? Can I keep going? And then she really will tell me, like, when she's done. She like, there's a shift in her body language. I'm like, okay. And then I stop.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
so interesting. I'm so excited and thrilled to hear how you're how you're practicing and implementing this.
Yeah, it's been very cool. And I remember having this kind of realization, as you know, I have like gut issues, and a lot of like healing that is sort of inner child work and listening to my body's cues. Um, and when I first got her, there was a day where I was sort of um, I got frustrated and I wanted her out of my kitchen. My kitchen's really narrow and we can't really both fit in there at the same time. And I did not say it nicely. And she went out of the kitchen and she peed on the floor. And I was like, oh, okay. I cannot,
Mhm.
you're telling me I cannot talk to you like that. I understand. And I had this sort of like moment of clarity of like the way that I need to interact with my gut is the way that I need to interact with my dog. That was
Mm.
like, that really expanded a lot of like the way that we've learned to talk to each other.
Mm. Wow. That feels so familiar. Like I have such a resonance,
Mm,
both the like struggling with my own gut issues and recognizing how like when I'm not caring for myself or my gut, my digestive system or my nervous system in the way that I need to, then I'm not able to show up for my dog in the way that they need me to.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's right over there. Well, I really wanted to have you on an IG Live because I wanted to hear from you what you were like, what drew you to the educator training? Like, where did you feel like you needed support? And then you thought, like, oh, this is how I'm going to get it.
Mm. I I've thought about this a lot, and like there's so many different reasons why I was
Mm,
into it. I think like I had already started working with you that year that you
that's
launched
right.
last year when you launched
Mhm.
the educator training, and um, the I think the skills that you offer and the structure of communication that is involved with being able to practice consent was so key for me um, in my personal life and in my work. So I was really drawn to um, skills in communicating and skills in feeling my body because I felt like I had always struggled with communication. From a very young age, I was always anxious, and my sort of default response is to freeze. So
Mm,
my like mind goes blank, and I stop talking, and I get really quiet, and it happens when I'm overwhelmed or when I like someone's angry or frustrated at me, or if I feel like I've made any kind of mistake. So I was just finding myself stuck in that freeze response. And it was showing up professionally and personally and like all over the place. And I was just like, how do I get out of this? How do I open my mouth and speak and talk and like say the things that I need to say? And so I was really drawn to it for that reason because just life in general would be so much easier with those skills. But professionally, I was really struggling to find my voice in terms of being able to define myself as a professional and really to be able to be creative and develop my work. I was really struggling to figure out what my business was going to be and how to feel confident to do something that was so incredibly different from what everybody else is doing.
yeah, I love that you brought up creativity around your business. Would you talk a little bit more about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I worked as a dog trainer for a long time, um, about 15 years now, and I actually started my own dog training business around the same time that I decided to go back to school for occupational therapy. And that was like a very different choice from what most people do. Like I really wanted to somehow work in animal assisted interventions, and because occupational therapy is like the focus of it is on building skills so that people can do the things they want to do or things that are meaningful to them, um, that I thought it would be a great fit. And so I did that. And then coming out of grad school, I was trying to figure out like how am I an occupational therapist? How do I
Mm,
function with this role or and this responsibility and this title? And also, how do I provide services for people with their dogs? Because I'm not really a dog trainer anymore either. So I was it was a creative reason that I went to school in the first. And then I went to school for occupational therapy. And then I really needed to be creative with developing some work for myself, and defining myself as a professional. And I think the creativity was a struggle last year for me because of imposter syndrome. And I was just so anxious about just like being someone different and trying to do something new and feeling really unqualified, or like I'm making something up and like it's not evidence based because no one's done it before, you know?
Right.
And that was just sucking all the creativity out of me because I was so overwhelmed with anxiety.
This point about the imposter syndrome, like that's landing so, like that's really resonating with me because I remember when I was first sort of developing what I do, I was I was like asking those questions like, should I go back to school? I'm not a mental health professional, all these things, like, and then I had to really get on my own side and be like, yeah, that you don't have training for this because no one's done it before. Or like there are people who are doing it similarly, like, talking about similar things, but no one's doing it your way. Des is saying she relates too. There's no, when there's no precedent, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, how do I prove that I'm legitimate? And that's like really about other people. It's about fitting in instead of belonging. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember talking to you about how you were like, I'm not this and I'm not that. And so I don't know if I belong in like this group or that, like, I don't know where to go. I hope that's okay for me to share.
Yeah.
So how, when like in going through the training, how did that shift take place?
Mm. I think what I think about when you ask this question is the like mirrors that we surround ourselves with, like, and I had been, so the people who we are around and even the objects in our home and the spaces where we spend time can reflect back to us who we are. And I think when I was trying to fit myself into the OT box, I was getting like some reflection of parts of myself, but not a true reflection of who I fully am. And the same thing if I tried to like be a dog trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, there are people who have similar ideas, but nobody is like reflecting who I fully am. So I would constantly feel inadequate in either place. And so the educator training became a place where I could see myself fully reflected by spending time with other people who were going through something similar and who had similar goals and ideas and values, to just get to see that consistently for weeks, and also to hear other people tell me like, I'm so excited about what you're doing, or like, this is a really good idea. It was so consistently reliable, for that reflection, that really was a catalyst for the shift.
Wow, that's really cool. It's true. It really is a group of people who are like, I don't really know what I do. Can I explain it to you? And maybe you can tell me what it sounds like. And I did that for so many months, like all through 2019, before the pandemic and before I started this business. I was like, can I please practice this thing with you? I think I'm onto something. I don't really know what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
and enough people said yes, and eventually like themes and patterns emerged, and I was able to go, oh, it looks like people who are struggling with this, like respond really well to this kind of intervention, and people who are struggling with this respond really well to this exercise. And then I literally, after sessions with people, I would be like, how would you describe what we did? And that was how I put it together. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is consistently happening. This is the feedback that I'm consistently getting. And then I thought, all right, I think I have some sense of what I'm doing. But I'm remembering that class that we had where we were all just kind of coming up with like terms for how to describe what we do. Like, are we a coach? Are we a guide? Are we a strategist? Are we a collaborator? Like, what do we call ourselves? And you know, everyone sort of had these different terms that were like resonating or were really speaking to like the process. Like I love that you settled on collaborator and strategist. I feel like that's like that really explains to me how you approach what you do.
Yeah, yeah, I really appreciated that class because it was sometimes you just need somebody to say, like, it's not A or B. Like, there's a zillion other,
Mm-hmm.
24 other letters. Like, there are so many ways to do it. And I've had a pattern of like getting myself into the situation where I truly believe there's only two choices. And then I'm like, well, I don't fit in any of those. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
then
don't belong there and I don't belong there, so I belong nowhere.
so just to like have a space to be like, let's play with this because it's not just A or B. And even if it seems like that, like playfulness is creativity and like
Mm-hmm.
is a way to cultivate that energy so that you can see like, oh my gosh, I could do it that way. Or like, oh, I could do it, or oh, nobody likes me.
Right, right. You know, creativity and play, I've learned, are a hybrid state in polyvagal theory, meaning that they're both the mobilize and immobilize uh, states like combined. So it's like the fight or flight and freeze, but like the sort of there are positive sides to both of those. So like the fight or flight is like the, you know, the energize, like I want to do this and I want to make stuff and I want to create things. And then the freeze, like the sort of positive side of that is the rest, that it's your like rest and digest state. And so that is also needed for creativity because you need to feel safe enough to play and explore and to fail and to know that you're going to be okay. And so when you were talking earlier about like constantly being in this freeze state, it's really cool that there's sort of like this antidote to that was like accessing creativity because it allowed you to sort of have some control in terms of like what kind of state you want to be in. And it sounds like that was really beneficial to your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I had really been exploring polyvagal theory and the vagal states, partially like because, well, a large contribution because of my own illness.
Mm.
And because when I finished graduate school, I got really sick. And it was like one of those things where it was like, there was no diagnosis, you know, like what is the answer? And so my acupuncturist, thankfully, was so wonderful to be able to explore things differently. And she and I theorized that it was a vagal nerve sensitization from being so stressed for so long that
Mm.
caused my vagal states to be like so imbalanced and have difficulty finding like a rhythm from day to day. And I think so like that's a foundation, that kind of exploration of the nervous system and finding ways to contribute to a rhythmic balanced system is a foundation of my work. And my work with you in the consent educator course really helped me to be able to focus on that and like find that as a foundation, feel really solid about it, and learn how to communicate about it in a way that
Mm.
I understand.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about like how you've implemented this stuff into your business and like the changes that you've seen?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Do you have a specific question? More specific than?
Um, well, I've witnessed like a rebranding and like a
Mm.
new name and a lot more of you in the way that you post on Instagram and on your website. Um, and I mean, maybe that's a question for you, like what specific ways um, have you like sort of taken something and then been like, I'm going to apply this? And then what has it caused? What kind of shifts it's caused?
Yeah. One of the things that's coming to mind is when you taught us about the yes to no spectrum. And I was also thinking about this when you were describing like that there needs to be this shift from like a freeze state that feels really unsafe to a freeze state that's safe, feels like safer and more nourished. So when I learned the yes to no spectrum, I was thinking about how to apply this to human and dog interactions. And your yes to no spectrum is brilliant because it identifies thoughts that we might have when we're weighing a decision, which
Mm-hmm.
was so me because at the time I was having a hard time feeling my body sensations. So being able to follow the thoughts was really helpful. But dogs have thoughts that we don't know about because they can't talk to us. And so I was like, there has to be a yes to no spectrum for dogs, but what are the if they are not thoughts? So I started playing around with that and identified and like developed a way to sort of code behavior on a yes to no spectrum so that you could see how the vagal state of freeze does exist on both the yes side and the no side of the spectrum. And so I've been able to teach this to people, and it like all these light bulbs go off about their dog's behavior, because it gives me a way, and it gives them a way to like understand how to like decode their own dog's behavior in a way that is really, it's like if you teach the person to fish, then they can feed themselves as opposed to just getting a fish for them. So before I'd be posed with a question from a client like, okay, so when I take my dog to the dog park and he does this or this, and how do I know if he wants to be there or if he doesn't want to be there? And then I might have them tell me some more details, and I might ask some questions. And then I would say, like, sounds like your dog doesn't or does want to be there, depending on their answers. So I'm just telling them the answer. But I had a client bring me a scenario like that, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to teach you this other thing. So that way you can then go home and you can find the answer every day for yourself. And so that's what I did. And it was the most fun session that I've had with a client because they were just like, oh my gosh, all these light bulbs are going off. And I really felt like I had given them something of value, that like a skill they could cultivate and use rather than just telling them the answer.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love what you did with the yes to no spectrum. Do you not share it on Instagram or your website because you want to keep it for like when you're teaching?
No.
I want to point people to it. I want to be able to be like, go look at this.
I know. It's on my list of things to share on Instagram.
Okay.
And the reason I haven't yet is because I get anxious, and so I've learned that a slow pace is really helpful for me because anxiety is such a fast pace, and I lived there for so long that like sometimes I have to physically like walk slow in order to practice slowing down. And so I just haven't gotten to it yet on Instagram because I allow myself to go slow and like disseminate ideas as they feel comfortable and as they come to me. But it's like it's like on the list of like things to go next.
I could use a little of that slowness, Sharon. Honestly, I've made a rule for myself that I'm not allowed to post on Instagram while I'm angry.
That's a good one.
It's gotten me into a lot of trouble. I love that you said anxiety is fast. I feel like that is something that must come up a lot with dogs, right?
Yes. Dogs who are anxious are moving faster, they're barking more. There's a lot of mobilization in the body. So like even like playful behaviors I have learned from muggins are not always indicative of feeling safe. Sometimes they're,
Mm.
and it looks playful, because the dog is young, or maybe that's an appeasement that's happening and not, and I actually feel comfortable and want to play. Um, so yeah, so I tend to feel like every time a dog I notice is displaying anxiety, there's a lot of mobilization. And then sometimes I feel like when I'm anxious in a situation with Muggins, it's moving too fast. Like he's moving too fast. The other
Mm.
people are moving too fast. I can't think about what to say fast enough.
And is that then like if you're noticing something like that, is it a good moment to like check in with your own emotional state? Like, am I rushing? Am I anxious?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I find that that what I do is I'll try to notice when I'm like doing something that demonstrates anxiety. Like I have a list of like, these are the things that I do. And then I try to look for them. So like moving fast or talking really fast could be one. Like I'm doing that now because I'm feeling a little so then I'm like, okay, that's a cue for me to slow down. And so, okay, here's my list of things that I use to slow down. Take a deep breath, or like take a breath after every sentence, or actually talk slower, or take a sip of tea.
Uh-huh. Ooh, good. I'm gonna join you with my water. Awesome. Okay. So, I had another question and then I forgot it. It was something about um that's funny, I should have written it down.
Hmm.
Well, was there anything that I sent you in that email that we didn't, or that like when I sent you that email and I with an outline, anything that came up that you sort of wanted to talk about that we haven't hit on?
Let me look. What were those? Oh yeah. I think we hit on everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Incorporated
Um,
it and how the results have been.
yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, well, cool. Is there anything that you want to plug? Anything upcoming that you want to share?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Am offering two coaching services. The second one, I'll tell you in a second. It's kind of, I haven't talked about it yet. But the
Cool.
first one is co-regulation coaching. And this is a private coaching service for people who experience anxiety and sensory sensitivities, who live with dogs who experience anxiety and sensory sensitivities. So we will work together to educate about the nervous system. So what are the different states? How do you know what they are? How does your nervous system move through them and what does it feel like? How does your dog's nervous system move through them and what does it feel like? And how do you incorporate like coping strategies or strategies to shift the nervous system or balance the rhythm of the nervous system into your daily routine so that both you and your dog can feel connected to each other and really grounded and safe when you're moving through the world and through your other activities.
Wow, that's incredible. That sounds amazing.
Thanks. And the second coaching service is collaborative care coaching. It's up on my website now, but I haven't started promoting it yet. But this is a coaching service for people who live with dogs who display aggression or maybe have bitten or who are anxious. And so we are going to go through
Mm.
the consent curriculum. So we're going to go through FRIES from Planned Parenthood, the yes to no spectrums, both for humans and for dog behavior, and the wheel of consent to build a daily practice of embodied consent with your dog and teach your dog how to be an active partner in their own care. And this dramatically reduces aggressive behavior and anxiety so that you can feel safe and confident when you're interacting with your dog and when you're inviting other people to interact with your dog.
Whoa. That's that's so cool. I already have a couple people in mind to send that to. How have you found the response to look, Uma says, fuck yeah, Sharon. When so I would imagine that there are some people who are like, what do you mean consent with my dog? And I'm curious like how you found the response to these offerings.
Mm-hmm. It's been challenging because sometimes it does feel like and like people, I think there are people who have heard about consent before I talk about what I do. They're very curious and very interested, and they like are wanting to learn more, and they have questions to ask. And then there are people who have never heard about consent before in any capacity, and it feels like it's like they don't know what questions to ask because it's so foreign, you know? And so I think I've been exploring ways to like start by promoting the service in spaces where people have already thought of this or are already looking for information about consent practices. And there are some in the pet care industry and the dog training world, there's already a lot of talk about cooperative care, which is a consent-based interaction with dogs specifically for hygiene and medical care, and fear-free trainings or force-free trainings. So like these are kind of like buzzwords that are popping up in the industry and people are starting to learn about them. And I think the approach that I take that's different is that I focus on both the human and the dog, and like as a whole unit with both the human needing to practice consent in general in their life and practice it and teach it to their dog. So it's yeah, I think to answer your question, it's people are curious and they just don't know what questions to ask sometimes, but then other people do. So it's been interesting.
Cool. There's, someone, Ty actually brought this up that, like a lot of people sort of, and I've experienced this where people like bristle at the word consent. They think that, that there's going to be some kind of like accusation that they've been violating a person or their dog or something like that. And and his suggestion was to, whenever possible, use the word boundaries instead, because it's like, it's essentially the same thing, but but everyone sort of agrees like boundaries are good, whereas like consent elicits this like defensive reaction a lot of the time. So use that if it feels right. I've been trying to think about like when I'm naming classes, like I had this like consent in your business class, and I changed the name to boundaries in your business because I think that sort of covers a larger scope actually. At least when people are thinking about like their work life boundaries and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that that's like subconscious initial reflex cuts people off from being able to really understand or ask the questions that they do probably have, just because that like rush of shame and fear.
Right. Like I mentioned you to someone who was like, oh, but I want to be able to cuddle my dog whenever I feel like it. And I was like, that's, like, okay, so saying consent with your dog makes you think that you're going to find out that you've been doing something wrong, essentially.
Well, yeah, also, though, I think just the way that comment is worded, it's like, I currently view my dog as my pet or like my property, do with as I please. And in order to practice consent, I have to change that perspective. view my dog as a sentient individual who has their own ideas and thoughts and feelings and right to their own body.
Right. Someone had a question in here. What about individuals and their service animals? And I'm gonna interpret that question to mean, do you work with dogs or with service animals and their humans?
I work with them in terms of like if they have the dog already and they want to deepen their relationship or there's some anxiety that has come up, then I work with them in that capacity. But I don't help people to train their dog to become a service dog.
Right. That's a very specific kind of training, right?
Yes, and you need to go through an accredited organization. So I would look at assistancedogsinternational.org. They provide the accreditation and can help you identify local places to look.
Cool.
Mhm.
All right, Sharon. Well, thank you for doing this with me. It's so exciting to hear what you're doing with your business and to watch it grow as it has over the last year. It's really been, I mean, can you look at it and like feel or like see the transformation?
I can, and that's part of the reason why I didn't start a new Instagram feed when I launched Human Canine Collaborative. Because if I keep the old one, then you can scroll back and like see.
Mm,
And I'll do that sometimes, just be like, wait, have I made any progress? And then I'll like look back and be like, oh yeah, like look at all these cool posts that I'm doing now.
yeah, they are very cool. I hope everyone in here will follow Sharon. And Muggins and her dog Muggins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mia, for asking me to join you. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll talk to you very soon.
Okay. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye. Thank you, Des. Good to see you.